forward to having you volunteer with us on Election Day. I'll just introduce myself. I'm Maureen Ramirez. I work for the Minnesota Civic Engagement Table, and it's a coalition of nonprofits. There's about 40 of them, and we do some coordinated, nonpartisan election work and some advocacy work together. And I've had that job for 2 years, and for 2008 I worked at the Minnesota Council of Nonprofits and directed their nonprofit Get Out the Vote efforts and the Free Rides program that worked some in conjunction with the hotline over here. So I'll get started with a little background history of election protection. We all remember this election, the kind of things that were happening, not so much here in Minnesota, but around the country that kind of fueled this incentive to start a kind of nonpartisan and legal election protection effort. And we all know, especially we know in Minnesota, that absolutely every vote counts. So everything we can do to make sure that the voter who wakes up in the morning and starts out getting to the polls actually gets to be there and cast their ballot. So we had a recount that got that close, and that's actually that 225 number I was pretty proud of for a while. That's the same number of rides that we gave to the polls in 2008 in a bizarre, nonpartisan coincidence. But it was people we got to the polls who then didn't have to do absentee voting, which turned into an issue in that election. So we do absolutely know that every vote counts, and so we're here to make sure that that happens. And because there have been some real problems in Minnesota. So the Red Lake Reservation, they had an issue with the tribal IDs. When that happened after that election, and the Voting Rights Coalition and some nonprofits led an effort at the legislature to change that, to make photo tribal IDs a legal ID to be able to use to same-day register. And then some other things going on in 06 and 08 around the Somali neighborhood around Cedar Riverside. And here a woman who wasn't allowed to bring in her son to the voting booth, and so she wasn't able to vote, and we know that you can bring somebody that you choose to assist you in doing that. So this is the national coalition, the national movement that we're a part of with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, English hotline that we're advertising here, also a Spanish one, and the website. So this is kind of overstating it and a little bit dramatic. I mean, I think that our recount did actually show the election system was functioning pretty well, but any time that you mobilize this number of people for one day, and I'm talking about the election judges, and kind of try to get their training up to speed and get them out and helping people, there are elements and times that people could be confused or not know exactly what they're doing or be giving out misinformation. So for all these different reasons, and just to be providing extra service and help to voters, we are doing election protection. The national effort's targeting 20 different states. Here in Minnesota, you know, the call center will have its headquarters right here, and then we're running a field program also. And I don't know if you've been hearing about some of the opposite efforts, this Election Integrity Watch campaign. Seems like they have a budget. We heard this morning they're driving trucks around neighborhoods, billboard trucks, and asking people to wear a button that says photo ID me and to be vigilant when they get to the polls, and they're actually offering rewards for people who turn in information or things that lead to voter fraud investigations. So this is different than what I've seen in the past in Minnesota, this pretty growing or public effort. And so again, what we're doing is what we were always intending to do, but now we see this situation where we really do want to be able to help voters. So the aspects include the hotline, the legal hotline that voters can call if they have questions, the field team that's going out and kind of being eyes and ears on the ground to see a couple of the precincts, litigation team, sort of a backup team that's ready to take the next step if they need to. And of course the traditional focus on here is on groups and neighborhoods and communities where people have been disenfranchised before. So we'll do this, like I said at the beginning, this kind of overview for the rest of our training time here. So here's the chart, which isn't exactly as complicated as what it seems. But a voter problem can be identified through the hotline or through mobile legal volunteers. Then you have your different resources to find out, some of them that we handed out in some of this training that you'll get. What's going to solve that problem? Who should I talk to? My hotline captain, or call in somewhere else? What are they going to do? Should we send out to volunteers? Should we call that election official? What are those steps? And at the very rare case would be litigation. So you have a frequently asked questions, kind of like a short document that's easy to look at, voter registration guide, and a very big manual that's in the back that you can pick up. Call center hosted here on the 1st and 2nd, and then the legal volunteers out in the field, so we covered that. 1-866-R-VOTE is the national number that we're pushing out there, and we're doing that through a lot of the different Get Out the Vote literature that nonprofits are handing out. We've just coordinated ordering some pieces of that and making sure that the phone number gets out into the communities and neighborhoods, people that we want to get it. Or for anyone. So anyone can call that. The numbers will be routed here. Minnesota phone numbers will come in here. And that's about it. Then the field teams will go out in teams of 2, and we're setting up precincts. You know, you'll get a handful of precincts, and we'll ask you to make some circles around there and sort of see what's happening on the ground on election day. This is what it looks like for the online database screen. So when calls come in, we do want to do some tracking so we can keep track of what's happening, or there are certain issues in one place, and then at the end of the day we can say, okay, we took this many calls about this many different issues. So there will be some data entry happening, and the hotline trainers, or the hotline phone answerers will go through what that is, just to take a call and to enter in some information. Okay, that's our overview. We're getting into the legal part now, so I'm going to hand it over to Chandra.